American channel swimmer Kathleen Wilson just completed a double crossing of the length of the Sea of Galilee. Today, I talk one-on-one with her about her adventure for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook.
Kathleen Wilson, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. You have so many titles. Great occupations, by the way. You're a harpist. You're an American swimmer. You're an entrepreneur, a former Charleston City Councilwoman. And now you want to let some news out of the cat bag, if you will. You said this on Facebook, time to let the cat out of the bag. Earlier today, I completed a double crossing of the length of the Sea of Galilee. Where are you emotionally still?
I'm happy as can be about the swim. Physically, I'm still recovering. It was, as a matter of fact, I'm looking at my watch, it was exactly 1 month ago right now that I finished and got back to the dock. And so physically, I'm still recovering from that swim. It was an effort.
What was that effort on your part?
Well, it was a 25.5-mile swim in a freshwater sea. The Sea of Galilee is freshwater, so it's really like a big lake.
Yes.
So there's no tide assist. So I began at the southernmost shore a little past 10 in the evening because the major concern in the swim is wind.
Oh.
And we swam all night. It was just me out there with a crew of 3 gentlemen in a boat.
Wow.
We had a couple of hours of wind from 2 to 4 in the morning. It got kind of tough. We had a few bad hours, and then it settled down again. I got into the northern shore to a boat landing 90 seconds after the sun came up. I was racing the sun the last 15 minutes, and the sun beat me by 90 seconds. Then I was able to exit the water. I have up to 10 minutes to rest, which I took about 8 of those 10 minutes. I changed out my goggles. I had a really good feed, had a little something to eat, just chilled for a couple of minutes, and then had to swim back and do it again.
Wow. And I'm going to get back to that in just a second. But let me ask you, Miss Kathleen, when did you select the best day, whatever day that is, to do this?
Well, when I contacted the Galilee Marathon Swimming Association, we established a 4-day window. They said, well, when are you coming over? And I said, well, when can you host me? Well, when are you coming over? And so it kind of went back and forth. And so I finally settled upon some dates, and we locked in a 4-day window. And it's all weather dependent. So I have to be ready to go at any point during those 4 days.
Wow.
And as it turned out, the first night and day turned out to be the best of the bunch. So we went ahead, and I was very happy to have it under my belt and completed, and then I could hang around and be a tourist for a little bit.
Oh, yes, right in Israel. When did you decide to do it at night?
It's mandatory, and that's not because the swim does dictate that, and it's because of weather.
Right.
Winds tend to lie down at night, and that's the major concern with this swim. So I started at night, so the winds would be at their calmest, and for the most part they were, except for those 2 hours, and that had been forecast, so I knew to expect it. And then coming back, we hit a very, very good day when the winds were minimal. We might have had a tiny little tailwind a couple of times.
How many times did you count on those tailwinds?
I didn't count on them at all. It's 25.5 miles of absolute pure swimming. There's no tide assist. There's no help whatsoever.
Wow, and I know you said this too. It is one very unpredictable lake. We began Sunday evening, and I entered the water at 10:07. How did you prepare yourself mentally to head into the water?
Oh, I'm there. I snap right into gear. When I'm facing a swim, and that's one thing I try to control it when I'm on land. When I go into the swim, I flip a switch, and then I don't stop for anything, and I take on a whole new personality, and it's a little ferocious. But what was so funny is I have this ferocious type personality going, but the whole time we were joking back and forth with the boat. So there's still a lighthearted element, but don't get in my way. Don't mess with me.
Right. That's amazing. And I know you said I swam through the night with some really good hours and a couple of very unpredictable winds moving around constantly. How many hours did you actually get in that were actually good?
Oh, the first leg up to the northern shore took 7:30 or 7:40, something like that. And most of those hours were pretty good swimming, pretty calm. And then we had 2.5 in the middle of the night that were a little rocky, a lot rocky. But then it settled down again. We were able to slip in, and then coming back, it was a whole new set of problems.
Yes.
The winds were no longer the problem. The heat was the problem.
Did you experience heat exhaustion?
A little bit, yes. It never got super, super bad. Obviously, it did not cost me to swim, but I was definitely sweating out more than my body could replenish. And then to top it off, my feed that I've used all these years started tasting very, very bad. And it was due to the heat. So I couldn't drink, and they're imploring me to drink more.
Right.
And I'm trying. I should have just held my nose and taken a big old slug of it, but
Yeah.
I didn't think. My brain sometimes doesn't go at 100%. In a swim like that, after that kind of exertion, your brain function drops just a couple percentages, and sometimes you don't make the best decisions.
Where was your brain function when this all heat exhaustion was going on?
Oh, it was fine. It was fine. My brain's like, you got a problem here. You're slowing down. You're not swimming as well as you normally do, but suck it up and keep swimming. And I did. There was no hint of quitting. And again, that's where I flipped that switch.
Right.
And it's go, 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 go.
Right. Now, when exactly did the winds become unpredictable for you?
In this swim, never. We had a very accurate forecast. Now, you can read all these biblical stories about storms in the Sea of Galilee, and that's absolutely correct because it sits in the middle of the bathtub. There's a ring of mountains around it, so every approach to the Sea of Galilee, you go down the hills into the basin.
Right.
And that cold air comes out of the Golan Heights. It mixes with that warm air at the bottom, and that's what creates these fierce winds and fierce storms. As a matter of fact, they told me about 10, 12, 14 days before I got there, they had hurricane force winds. I saw the damage. It tore up a dock. It did some damage around Tiberias where I was staying.
Wow. Now, I know you mentioned earlier that you were trying to beat the sunrise at the northern shore of the lake, just obviously to beat the sunrise, and the sun actually beat you by 90 seconds.
Yep.
What was plan B, Miss Kathleen?
Oh, plan B was the same as plan A or plan C, and that's keep swimming. I know my brain is well developed enough with these swims. My mental toughness is absolutely there. Nothing much stops me, even in the face of adversity. And it's gotten better and better and better over the years. And I will say I've got a good friend who's an special ops guy, Marine, Force Recon, and the things that he told me have been proved invaluable. For the last 10 years, I've just been employing those, and it's a whole new mindset. Nothing bothers me, nothing stops me.
What is the biggest difference from 10 years ago to right now when you think of that?
Mental toughness. My body is still starting to show wear and tear. I've been at this game a lot of years now. So my mind is better than ever. My cardiovascular system hasn't lost a beat, and my body, especially my shoulders, have suffered.
I know your lats and the rhomboids on both sides completely either seized up or quit working or something, but I had substantial power drop with each pill. What were your power drops before those pills?
It was heat exhaustion. That's the dehydration. That's where it affected me. It was right in all these power muscles. And, it was just a function of losing a little too much fluid. And I went into the swim well hydrated, but it's the sort of thing that happens. You have to be prepared for anything out there. And I muscled on through.
Yes, that's that. Yeah, thank God you did and made it out safely and everything. When did you feel like you were losing your fluids?
I knew something was up on the return leg when I just didn't feel as quick and as efficient as I normally did, and I was starting to get really sore, especially in through pecs and all the muscle attachments along my sides. No, I know I've trained.
Right.
And I started to think, well, maybe I hadn't trained enough, because it's always the devil on this shoulder and the angel on this shoulder, and they're talking to you and they're messing with your head. It's like, oh, you're undertrained. You didn't prepare well enough. Well, in actuality, looking back, it was my great training that got me through the swim.
Right. Talk to me about that. What was that process of you training for this particular huge event?
Well, my rule of thumb is to swim the distance of the event each week. And in those very dark, dreary days, January, February, March, I get out of bed when it's a cold, rainy morning or whatever it may be, get to the pool and put hours in. And so I made sure that I covered 40 to 42, sometimes more, 1,000 meters a week. That's at least 25 miles a week. Right. And I get it done in Monday through Friday. And that's another story. That training regime is not conventional, but it worked for me with little kids for many years. Yes. But at any rate, I get that work done. Once in a while now, I take a back off week. About every third week, I cut back maybe 30%, take an easier week. If need be, stay in bed for a morning. And then I supplement with a lot of gym time, in particular shoulders, because I've had both rotator cuffs repaired. I've got 10 anchors in my shoulders. Wow. From torn tendons. I was told I'd never swim marathon again. Okay.
And here you are.
Watch me. I've been underestimated my whole life.
Well, I was going to say politics too.
Yeah. But, so I've come through, just created the strength and done the work that I needed to do.
And what extra work did you do that actually kept you going through that entire ordeal when you were swimming out there?
I'm so comfortable in the water. I function better in the water than I do on land sometimes. I'll trip walking down the sidewalk, but I never look ugly in the water. Seldom look ugly. But it's so happy to be out there, and I have no fear. There are a lot of so-called marathon swimmers, and you're not going to ever see them in open ocean. Open ocean all night doesn't bother me. Sea of Galilee all night doesn't bother me. But the thing in this swim is there was nothing that was going to sting me or kill me.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, that's always a plus. There was nothing there. A couple of fish bounced off my feet, but that was about it. Unlike those Pacific swims and Hawaiian and that sort of thing, where it can be sharky. There are a lot of things out there that could do damage to a swimmer.
Jeez. So, knowing now what you know, obviously, how did you prepare yourself for that, just in case something like that would have happened? I'm at ease. That's kind of the gambler in me. If I'm going to get in the Pacific and swim all night, and I know the territory I'm swimming with, I kind of roll the dice. Like, what are the odds? The odds are very much in my favor. Right.
And we don't do anything stupid. And I've got a good crew, and they're always looking to see what's out there and just keep a very watchful eye. But I don't let it concern me.
Right.
And again, that's part of the mental game.
And what was your food game?
My food game. Well, most of these swims, I've had my little potion that I've been drinking for all of these years. It's a combination of a carbohydrate powder and diluted grape Gatorade, because grape goes down in my stomach and stays. Gatorade, grape or fruit punch.
Oh, yes.
I can't handle citrus. Cannot handle citrus in salt water. Comes right back up. And so that works very, very well. I've also recently started supplementing with a little bit of protein.
Yes.
Goop Hacks. As a matter of fact, Frog Fuel they sponsored me. They sent me products to use during the swim to celebrate this big anniversary, and so I used their products during the swim, and a little shot of protein early in those early hours helps me at the end. And for this swim now, this is 2 swims in a row using that stuff, I have had minimal soreness the next day.
Wow.
So all that muscle repair gets underway before I actually finish the swim.
And what is your muscle repair now? How's that feeling?
I just mentally need the time off, and physically, I told myself I would take the entire month of June. I've extended that through the 4th of July, just because I'm 10 years older than the last time I did a 15-hour plus swim or 16-hour plus swim, and I owe that to myself. Take a little bit of time off because I'll last longer.
Yes. And talk about that swim, Miss Kathleen. What was going to be what did you expect your personal best to be?
I was hoping to go between 14 and 15 hours with this swim, but given the dynamics in the heat, I mean, the air temperature was 103 that day.
Wow.
And the water temperature was over 80. And so I'm churning, and sweating out a bunch of fluid. People don't understand how much you sweat when you swim, and trying to replace that fluid. So you can see I got caught in a little bit of a whirlpool effect. But it worked out just fine.
And how did your skin look when all this?
Oh, I'm absolutely fine, especially in fresh water. Salt water, I kind of, salt water starts eating at you right away. And when I come out of some of these Pacific swims, I'm looking pretty grim. But this one was not nearly as bad because it was fresh water.
Fresh water.
And it wound up taking me 16:45, so I was a healthy hour and a half or so beyond where I had hoped to be.
Wow, that is really amazing. And for those young people out there that want to be like Miss Kathleen, how do you go about that?
Don't. No, in all seriousness. You mean as far as marathon swimming?
Yes, ma'am.
Learn to swim first. I mean, really have good technique, good strokes. There are so many resources out there now that never existed when I was in the beginnings of this sport. There are all sorts of chat groups and things like that. I mean, I did this the hard way. I did it with 2 little kids. When I started swimming, I had 1 in diapers. I had 2 really hard jobs. And I found a way to do this. And, a lot of times I have more respect for a swimmer in those kind of circumstances than the 30-something who's single, lots of disposable income, sponsored, can flit around the world doing all of these swims. You know, I really sacrificed financially, family, everything, and tried to hold it together, and did it remarkably well.
Wow. And how do you hold it together now?
It's a little easier with grown kids.
Yes.
So I will say that right up front. But I've never said that I balance life. I don't balance anything. I blend it. And there's a big difference between balancing and blending. I take all of these jobs and, you know, for example, all those years of playing in orchestras, they never needed me before 10 in the morning. So I had those early morning hours to train.
Yes.
That was the upside of a job like that. Now the downside is, when do musicians perform? Evenings, weekends, and holidays.
Right.
So I was locked in late in the week, through the weekends, oftentimes between symphony stuff, between weddings and parties, family functions. So that's one of the things that kind of inhibited my marathon swimming career, is that I couldn't get away because I had all of these pre-existing obligations. So if somebody invited me and said, hey, we're going to kick off a new swim, we want a dozen or so test swimmers, you want to come up and do it? If I was locked into something, there was absolutely no way I could do it. So that really did throw a monkey wrench in things. But on the flip side, I was home a lot of days when my kids got home from school.
That's good. That's amazing. And now, Miss Kathleen, how do you blend things together today with all the freedom that you have, but still you have all these other responsibilities?
Well, it's funny because I still get up at 4:45 in the morning, which it's awful, but I do it. And I get a good workout in, so I'm done by between about 8 and 8:30. These days it's more like 7 to 7:30 because I'm still on downtime.
Right.
And that way I can get to a meeting. Now, for example, I've got a Charleston Water System Commissioners meeting tomorrow. So I can get to that. I can come home, have my coffee, sit down and just hang for a few minutes, and then construct the day as to where I need to be when, and how I need to piece things together, how many changes of clothes or dry swimsuits I need to take.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. You know, swimming is always complicated for a lot of the minorities today. How do they go about swimming? How do they go about becoming like you?
Boy, I'll tell you, the door is wide open. And I am such a believer in swim lessons from a very, very early age. And it absolutely kills me that there are no swim lessons for the third year in a row in the city of Charleston, because I think about all children, minority, non-minority, but just, you know, trying to learn how to swim and having to find private instructors or simply not doing it. Because what it is it's an avenue for employment later on. It's an avenue for that. With that employment come customer service skills, responsibilities, income. It is the ticket to other things in life, and it's a stepping stone. You know, lifeguarding is a stepping stone, but you got to learn how to swim first so you can be a lifeguard. So you see, again, we get caught in this whirlpool, just like I did in the Sea of Galilee, where this doesn't happen, so this doesn't happen, so this doesn't happen. And that's the cycle that we need to break. We don't have enough pool space in the city of Charleston.
And what other cycles do we need to break along with those spaces?
Just, you know, creating opportunity, having lane space. I mean, the city of Charleston is down to one pool when we get into the fall, and W.L. Stevens closed. What was a year-round pool, in the city's wisdom, they converted it to a seasonal pool. So it got dumbed down. MLK is a sitting target. I mean, MLK is fine. It's where I train every day. One tropical storm or hurricane, and that structure is going to be a mound of rubble. I say that's my opinion. We shall see whether it holds up if any bad weather comes in at some point.
After that renovation?
Right. Exactly. I mean, we had winds of 40 miles an hour, and there were a couple of panels popping out. So I'm not terribly impressed. And 12 years on city council, and I couldn't move the needle. But it's unbelievably frustrating.
And how are you moving the needle now, Ms. Kathleen? Obviously off city council, being off city council, I should say.
Well, I can tell you that I am delighted to be off city council. I got off at the absolute right time. I don't like how it all occurred. I don't like what was done to me, but in the grand scheme of things, it was the best thing that ever happened, because I would not want to be there right now. You know, I still run my program, my little swim call program. I can teach wherever I can. unfortunately, as a resident of the city of Charleston, I have to go to North Charleston to do a lot of teaching.
Wow.
Because we don't do anything here. So I'm doing things as I can, but I love serving with Charleston Water System. It's a very well-functioning utility. The people are tremendous, and I see such ethics and good behavior, taking responsibility if something doesn't go well and saying, we need to up our game, we need to do a better job of doing things. But it's been great because a lot of it is work that I was exposed to in the city of Charleston as a council member, but with a lot less pressure. I don't have to worry about grand tree removal. I don't have to worry about subdivision approvals and all the things that were so contentious with city council, and no matter what you did, you couldn't get it right and you couldn't please a certain demographic.
And how should the city up its game with swimming for a certain demographic when it comes to swimming?
Simply, building a new facility. I handed the mayor's office a plan, and they wouldn't even hear it. Didn't even want to hear it because I guess they know better. I've been in the sport now 48 years.
Yes.
I've spent 25 of them in marathon swimming. I know a thing or two about aquatics. I've got connections within the swimming world, the aquatics world, and nobody has any interest. And I understand the city has a lot of things going on, but I think we need to appeal, and we need to service all residents.
Yeah. And what's next for you?
I'm going to keep swimming, and I love my time with Charleston Water System. I'm still playing. The symphony work, I'm playing elsewhere. There was a fundamental change in 2011 when the symphony voted a third of its colleagues out of our jobs. To have your colleagues vote you and 11 others out of your job. I never again earned a full-time living as a professional musician after that. And so, went on through, and then a couple of years ago, after 31 years of service, they simply never contacted me again. No letter, no email, no text, no phone call, nothing, no meeting, nothing. All at once I was dead. So what that did was it opened other doors.
Sure.
And so I'm playing elsewhere with a much nicer group of people. and it's going well. So I'm still doing all the things that I love to do. That's what I'm trained to do. That's my education. I've got a bachelor's and a master's in harp. And so that's, decades and decades of experience. So I'll take it where I'm wanted and where I'm appreciated.
And where do you think swimming is going to be taken to next?
I don't know. In Charleston, I just don't hold much hope. In my little world, I created the Swim Around Charleston.
Right.
That event attracts sort of new people to the sport, as well as some higher level swimmers who might want an easy late season swim.
Right.
So that's been good. I mean, I can't hold an open water swim camp here, and there are a lot of things that I really can't do, but I could, as my gift to the open water world, create this event and run it every year. And it's been extremely well received. So I've got that, and I've got a good setup right now.
Sure.
And I'm kind of loving life, and I don't think I really need to do much else if I don't want to. I'll do things as they present themselves, as I get it all sorted out, but I'm in a good spot.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Kathleen Wilson, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups. I didn't have any hard questions this time for you.
Oh, but that's okay. You can always ask me hard questions because I answer them.
I know.
But thank you.
Thank you.